Hey, recently my Airtable hit the 20 gigabytes limit, and I found an amazing tool to compress images that is actually for free. So I thought I'd make a little tutorial and show you how nice this works and how you can use it in an automated way to compress images in bulk. So this is how the image looks before, and this is how the image looks after, and basically I cannot see any difference. But as you can see here on the bottom, the attachment size for those uncompressed images is 18 megabyte, and here's only 2 megabytes. So it's quite a significant change in attachment size without basically losing any quality of the image. So I think that's amazing. And if you want to do the same, follow this tutorial. And the only two things that you will need is an account at the compression service, which is called Mallabe. The link is in the description, and also at a tool called Make. That is really amazing. If you like Airtable, you will love Make as well. And here, Make is used to connect the Airtable base with the compression service and put the compressed images back into Airtable. And yeah, basically, Mallabe, you can compress as many images as you want without having to pay any price. And also, Make, you can create an account for free. You don't even need to give your credit card information or anything. It's just email and login. So please use the link in the description because it's an affiliate link. And yeah. Um, so one thing that is important to note is that in your Airtable, you will maybe have records where you only have one image in the field, and maybe you will have uh, records where there are multiple images in the field. And if you only have one image per record, this here will be enough. It's quite easy to set up. And if you have multiple images per record, then this is what we're going to build. And it's slightly more complicated. But if you used Make before, it will be very simple. And if you haven't used Make before, then you can just follow the tutorial along, and I will rebuild it from scratch. So also I'm gonna delete these fields now, so that we can just build it all together from scratch. And yeah, you can see how it's done and just follow along. So um, I assume now you created your Make account and your Mallabe account, and the first thing you want to do is go to your accounts in Airtable, because you will need to create an API access token so that Make can yeah, interact with your Airtable. For this, you're going to press here. Next up, create a token. And here I'm going to just call this tutorial 2. And in the scope, you want to make sure that Make can read and write data, and that it can read and write the base schema. And access, you need to define which base it is that you're working on. And then you get here this token. And you can copy that. And I'm gonna, as promised, start from scratch. So after you create your Make account, you press here, create a new scenario, and then you want to search for Airtable. Select Airtable and say watch records. So this is going to be the trigger. And then you have to press add and say Airtable token or key. And that's where you're going to paste the access token. And now Make and Airtable are connected, and you can select the base that you want to compress the images from, and you select the table within the base that the images that you want to compress are in. And now it's asking for a trigger field. And now we have to go back to Airtable and set up some fields. So um, first of all, I'm gonna make kind of a command, or like an, yeah, let's say call it compression order, basically where we order the compression, and it's just a checkmark field. And next we're gonna make how's this called again, modified, yeah, last modified time field, because that's what's gonna be the trigger in make. And we're gonna say watch a specific field, uh, and that's the order. Okay, so this field now always changes as soon as I select or unselect this button. So every of those changes here in the time will, yeah, change, could be a potential trigger for make. And next up, we're also gonna create a field to see if the compression is finished. Okay, this is just to make sure we understand which files have been compressed yet or not. Obviously, I'm going to delete these. Obviously, if you save the image in a separate field in Airtable, then it's obvious which images have been compressed or not. But if you want to save them in the same field, which I would recommend, because then, yeah, you don't have to move anything around afterwards, then maybe this compression finished field is handy to use, so you understand which ones have been done. Yeah. Okay. So back to make, we'll need to refresh this form because we created some new fields. So make will read the base schema again and will detect the new fields that we just created, and we can now select them here. Last modified label field doesn't really matter so much, and the limit means how many items will be pulled in by make at the same time. Okay, so now we got that settled. Next, we want to select Mallabe here. Okay, and we're gonna select Mallabe images, compress an image. And then you will have to go to Mallabe after you created your accounts, go to API keys. You'll find your API key here. You copy it, and I'm going to close that. You press add here, put the API key in there, and you're done connecting Mallabe. And now select the image type. We're going to use URL, and then the image URL is coming here from the uncompressed images. So in make, when there are these brackets, it means it's an array, and there are several, yeah, a list of information that you can choose from, and we want the image URL. So Airtable has for every image you have in Airtable a URL. So we're going to put this in there. Here with quality, the number means how much compression you want, but a lower number means more compression. So if you put 100, it would mean no compression. So in my experience, even if you put 20, the images are gonna look still like before, and they're gonna be much smaller. So I would recommend something around that magnitude. Okay, so now that we have that set up, the records are recognized, they will be compressed, and then we want to store them in Airtable again. So this time we're going to choose update a record. And we're going to choose the same base and the same table within the base. And for the record ID, that's basically asking which where should this image be saved. Obviously, we want the same, be stored in the same record that it came from. So we're going to choose the ID here, and you see this one yeah, going up and down, and we're going to select that because that's where we want it from, and then here in the field that we want to store this, or in the same field it came from, you could also select that. You're going to enter the URL and the file name, but this time from Mallabe because it's the compressed images that we want. And then you can also say here compression finished, yes. Okay, now that we have that set up, because I clicked around, no, if I say, oh yeah, it's already starting. So because I clicked on this before, the trigger has already been kind of yeah, started. So the compression is happening. You can see here it went to all the steps and put the compressed image back in here. If I press the start button again, nothing will happen. But as soon as I select all those fields here, they will all be recognized. And if I now start the scenario again, it will go through all these images and I'll put them here. So that's a nice and automated manner to compress your images. And yeah, as you can see, it's really small size now. That's amazing. And what you can see here, those numbers say how much basically make, I don't know how they call this, but basically the units that the pricing is based on, you used up. In this case, we now used 11 units, and in the free plan, you have 1,000 units per month. So you can compress quite some images, and even if you can't compress them in one go, you can do it the next month. Or you get a higher pricing. I think for $10 or something, you get 10,000 units. So there's quite a lot of images that you can compress. And now the slightly more challenging part. Let's say we have 2 images and we're gonna want to compress them both. Then we will need to add a module here, and that's the flow control. Okay, so you click on flow control and you're going to select the iterator module. And as you can see in this image, it basically splits something up, and what it splits up is an array. And as mentioned before, in Make, everything that is an array has these brackets at the end. So we can just select the whole thing. We don't need to select something specific in here, just the whole thing, and say, okay, so it's going to split that array up, and we can use, yeah, so when one thing comes there, it can become multiple things afterwards. And that's what we want, because we have one record, but we have many, 1, 2, or more images within that record. So we want that to be split up. So that means here in Mallabe, we don't want to take the URL anymore from here, but we want to take it from the array that is being split up. So now we have those yeah, green variables that we can select from, and we want the URL again. So it's the same thing that we want, just from a different place. Quality is the same thing, and that's fine for now. But we want to store all that in one record again. So we need to aggregate those different images again and make them available as one array again. So we're going to select flow control. Okay, so flow control, and now we're going to make choose array aggregator, and the source module is going to be the iterator. The structure is where you want to store the images, and then the file URL, we're gonna take it from Mallabe, and the file name as well. and then you will see this nice gray thing showing how the array is first split up, but then so every image gets processed by itself, but then aggregated again, so it can be stored as one array again. And that means also here we need to change something, because yeah, the ID is fine, it stays the same, it's only one record, but here we need to close that, select map, and then for the compressed image just store the entire array in there. And besides that, everything stays the same. So if I press now, nothing should happen. Okay, great. And as soon as I select this here, trigger thing goes off. I press this again, it goes through here, compresses the images one by one, and stores it back here in the Airtable. Wonderful. Okay, 2 different images. And we're going to do the same thing for the last one. And yeah, that's it. One more thing to notice: if for some reason your compression should fail at one point, and you want to make sure that the images that have been compressed already don't get compressed again, you can go here and set up a filter where you say don't compress twice, and you can select here compression finished and say does not exist. Say OK, and now if I want to trigger this field again and I say go, it gets filtered here and nothing happens. So in case you want to compress 100 images and one of them fails and then you need to restart, then you can set this filter. The filter also doesn't take up any units, so that's great. Yeah, I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. Please give it a like if so, so the algorithm can understand that this video was helpful to you. And yeah, have fun compressing your images. See you next time.